Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. For almost a century, Farm Bureau has been a friend of the farm for all Virginians. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Here's what's coming up in this week's program. The number of Virginia farms shrank 10% from 2017 to 2022. Indoor agriculture is growing in a big way, and home gardeners can learn from the industry. And some canines are being trained to catch the spotted lanternfly, an invasive pest.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Featherstone Farm in Amelia County. The latest Census of Agriculture is out, and it's not good news for Virginia farming. Norm Hyde reports the state's #1 industry is shrinking.
Virginia followed a nationwide trend towards fewer farms and less farmland from 2017 to 2022, according to the just-released USDA Census of Agriculture. The number of farms in the Old Dominion dropped 10% over that 5-year period to just under 39,000 operations. And only 37% of Virginia farms made a profit in 2022.
The lower percentage of farms that had a positive net cash income in 2022 can most likely be attributed to the recession, the post-pandemic recession, and again, even if farm prices increase, the cost of production increased at a much more rapid rate than farm prices.
Tony Banks with the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation's Agriculture, Development, and Innovation Department says the results of the latest census are not surprising.
Farming's not dying in the state of Virginia, but it does face a lot of challenges. Those farmers, in addition to the normal weather concerns and market concerns, there's a lot of other economic pressures, both from their family life as well as local regulations or zoning that may affect how and where they can farm, or state, federal regulations or programs that may make it more difficult to compete for farmland and other resources.
You have to operate above cost of production, and your cost of production changes, but also what you get paid for your crop changes, and we don't get to set that. We're beholden to the markets, to the grain markets, where they trade, and like I said before, they're depressed right now, and it doesn't look good for the foreseeable future.
Colin Whittington raises row crops and cattle on more than 2,500 acres in Amelia County and surrounding counties. He's seen a lot of changes in his 20-year farm career, but his 80-year-old father has seen even more.
When I first started selling agricultural seed, there were 30 to 35 dairy farms in this county. Now I believe there are 4. Several of them are pretty good size, but they're way less. In fact, there were 20 to 25 in neighboring Powhatan here, where we also lease land and farm, and now there are none.
Juan Whittington remembers raising chickens, eggs, and hogs, as well as row crops on their home farm. He's still serving on the Amelia County Planning Commission and knows how hard it is for a country community to balance a rural lifestyle and economic growth.
The real estate industry wants to see more houses to be able to sell, but when people move into the county, once they move into the county, then they don't want anybody else to come.
Farmers have a saying, they're not making any more farmland, and the latest census numbers reflect an ongoing conversion of agricultural land to other uses. There are 7.3 million acres of Virginia farmland left, almost 500,000 acres less than in 2017. That's slightly more than the entire square mile value of Bedford County, Virginia's fifth largest community. Banks says this is also not a new trend.
The number of middle-sized farms, according to USDA data, has been decreasing. And that may be attributed to these middle-sized farms have had to become larger in order to survive, or two, if some of the farmland that they rent is no longer available to them for whatever reason, maybe another farm rented the land, maybe that farm became a subdivision, maybe it became an industrial park, or maybe it became a solar facility.
Colin Whittington is one of the farmers who has had to get bigger or get out. He's seen several middle-sized dairy farms close in recent years. In fact, he's renting a lot of their nearby farmland.
Since I was a kid around here, we're 2 to 3 times larger than we were at that point. But we've always been diverse with the seed business. That's helped. Cleaning seed here and raising seed products like seed soybeans that we're shipping out today.
The census also noted that 8% of Virginia farmers were under age 35. They operated more than 4,000 farms in the Old Dominion, many with small acreage. Banks says there's no question that the romance of being a farmer is alive and well, despite all the economic challenges.
One, people are truly interested in where their food comes from. Two, a lot of folks are interested in having a job or a career where they can work outdoors, not necessarily have anyone looking over their shoulder between 8 and 5 o'clock. They're their own boss, and so they can make their own decisions.
We're losing farmers every year, and it takes all people to make the world go round. We have to have doctors and nurses and firefighters and policemen, and you have to have farmers. But one thing remains the same, is everybody's got to eat.
The Census of Agriculture provides a vital snapshot of the breadth and health of Virginia agriculture, the state's oldest and largest industry. Whether they farm on thousands of acres or just a few, Virginia farmers remain dedicated to keeping the business of agriculture alive in the Old Dominion. In Amelia County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde reporting.
The U.S. government has been tracking American agriculture since the country was founded. George Washington is credited with the first survey of farm neighbors during his presidency. The formal Census of Agriculture began in 1820 as part of the regular U.S. Census, conducted every 10 years. In 1950, it switched to collecting agricultural data every 5 years. At first, the Census of Agriculture focused only on acreage and prices for major field crops and livestock. In the past 30 years, it has expanded to include demographic information on farmers themselves and other valuable data for policymakers and the industry.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about a modern take on hydroponics from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
Farming is a rewarding way of life, but it can also be full of challenges. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text the AgriStress helpline at 833-897-2473. It offers 24/7 access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in your community. Please make the call, because healthy farms depend on healthy farm families. That's 833-897-2474.
Greenhouse agricultural operations are a booming business in the Old Dominion. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension recently visited one with an eye for finding tips for the home gardener from the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're in Goochland County, Virginia, and we're at a large greenhouse operation that uses hydroponic techniques to grow leafy greens, a company called Greenswell Growers. And we're here with the CEO, Mr. Carl Gupton. Carl, thanks for having us.
No problem.
This is an amazing location, an amazing place here where you're growing lots of things. People can see behind us all that you're doing. Yep. But tell me a little bit more. What do you do here?
Sure. So we have a commercial scale greenhouse that we grow baby leaf greens. Our business model was to bring the West Coast farms to the East Coast. And I think we've been pretty successful at that so far. Really, 90% of the baby leaf greens that you eat today come from the West Coast, whether that's California or Arizona. Our business model is to bring those to a local level and eliminate that transportation across the country and bring a fresher, crisper produce to the store shelves.
I know that as I go to stores around the state of Virginia, I see your product in there, and it's a box that's got mixed greens in it.
Yep.
Pretty amazing. It looks really good.
That's our goal. That's part of the freshness that we're able to deliver.
And I know with the technologies you got here, which is very, very high tech, you can produce a lot of lettuce in this size operation. How big is this operation?
So it's 1.4 acres we have under glass here. With that, we can produce about 700,000 pounds of baby leaf greens out of that 1.4 acres. Give you some perspective, West Coast in Salinas, if you had that same acreage, you'd produce about 32,000 pounds annually. So we get about a 25x of what you would get versus traditional field farming.
Oh, that's truly amazing. And as I see a lot of these operations popping up, and I also see people, just hobby growers and gardeners that are interested in this type of thing. And so is this something that they can do at home maybe?
Sure. This is a hydroponic system, an NFT system on steroids, I would say. The home gardener could use the same exact techniques we are using. We just do it on scale with automation.
Okay. Well, I know Gus, your head grower, I'm going to go talk to him, and he's going to maybe show us some of the things that you do here, and maybe we can translate that and how it can help growers at home.
Absolutely.
Hey Gus, how are you today?
Hi Chris, I'm doing well.
You know, I was talking to Carl earlier about this operation. It's an amazing operation, really high tech. And I get calls all the time and emails from people that want to do some type of hydroponic operation at home, or maybe they've got a hobby greenhouse. And I'm thinking some of the things that you do here might be applicable for them in their operations.
Yep, I think that's definitely the case. We just do things at a super large scale here, but the same principles apply. Like we grow in a specialized substrate. We use a peat moss-based substrate. Same thing that a gardener at home could use for their hydroponic system. And then lighting is important, fertilizer and irrigation, the same principles apply.
Oh, gotcha. And that makes sense. You got to really, with these type systems, you've got to pay attention, don't you?
Yeah.
And I know you guys are monitoring things all the time. And we think about fertilizer, for example.
Yep.
I know that you guys mix a certain type of fertilizer. It's really good for the plants. And then you monitor it all the time.
Yep.
So what can somebody do at home if they're mixing up a fertilizer?
Yeah, so while here our systems will automatically adjust our fertilizer for us based on my recipe, at home you can buy an inexpensive pen or a meter that will test your fertilizer, and you can mix up a batch once a week. Now what you mix up at home might not last as long as what we make here, but there's simple ways to do these things.
When you think about seeds and varieties, people are always looking for seed catalogs where they can find seeds that might be good for the home garden, maybe good for a DIY hydroponic system. Are there some seeds or cultivars that are better for that?
Yes, we grow specific ones that were bred for systems like this. And for the home hobbyist, you could certainly purchase ones that maybe not at this level of precision, but varieties that are meant for a hydroponic system.
Okay, so I know behind you here, you've got your trays. The trays have been harvested. The lettuce that you produced is harvested. The trays are sterilized, clean. They come through here and they get that media there on them, and then you plant a seed, right?
That is correct.
So it goes out there, and what do you do to make sure that you germinate well?
Yep, so germination is one of the most important steps for us here. It's ensuring that we have good plants at the end when we go to harvest. So we try to monitor the temperature and humidity are the most important factors. We aim for 80 to 90% humidity and 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit to get really good germination.
That makes sense. I think whether you're out at your home and you've got you're germinating seeds for your garden or for your hydroponic system, I think those kind of things is what people need to think about.
Yeah, and while here we measure all of this with really highly automated systems, at home there are simple ways to do things like that, like light timers or power timers that can turn on heaters on and off, and more easy ways to access this kind of technology.
Okay, makes sense. Really high-tech operation, but I think it can translate down to some home growers.
Certainly, and that's where a lot of my original experience came from before I got here.
Oh, makes sense. All right, love your operation. Thank you so much for letting us come out today.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, for more information about how to grow hydroponically, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from The Green Kitchen. Coming up, a delicious side dish, celery root, and parsnip puree. We hope you'll stay with us.
Our cow, she walks into the barn, she gets milked. Milk's taken from her and put through a chiller. And that milk's taken from body temperature of a cow, which is about 102.5, and dropped to 35 degrees and put straight onto a tractor trailer. And it goes straight to the plant the next day. So most of the milk that's sitting on your store shelves is probably less than 48 hours old. And that's a pretty good testament to how efficient we are.
Your parents always told you to eat more vegetables. Chef Tammy Brawley shares her recipe for an ingredient that's popular with many vegetarian and low-calorie dishes, in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen, and welcome to Heart of the Home. Today I'm going to show you guys a delicious side dish. This is absolutely one of my favorites to do. We are using something you've probably never heard of, and that is called a celery root. From the celery family, but this is not the celery that is grown that we would put in soups and stews. As you can see, it's got a lot of knobs, there's a lot of dirt in it. When you're working with this, you do want to cut the knobs off and peel it. And then we're also using parsnips. Parsnips look like carrots. They're actually sold in the carrot section of the grocery store, but they taste very different. What you really want to do is you want to peel both of these vegetables. So I'm just going to take the peel quickly off of the parsnip here. And just like anything else you do in cooking, the bigger something is, the longer it takes to cook. So when you dice these two vegetables up, you do want to make sure that you have them the same size, which we've already done for you ahead. So we're just going to cut that core off, slide that out of our way. Now, I want to show you the celery root. It's also known as celerac. It's also known as knob celery. Knobs because of the knots that you see on there. We're not going to actually cook those. We're going to more or less cut those off. And what's going to happen is we're going to get down to a core knob of celery root after we've peeled it. And then this is what it's going to look like once it's peeled. So after it gets to that point, then we're going to cut it up and dice it, and the parsnips as well. We have some in each bowl here. We're going to fill them into a sauce pot with water, and we're going to let it boil, and then we're going to puree it in our food processor. And we'll be right back. Our celery root and parsnips have actually boiled for about 10 to 15 minutes or so. You want them to be fork tender, so we can just pull a piece out. And there we are. We are definitely fork tender. So now I'm going to drain it very carefully. You come back to your food processor. Now, if you haven't let these drain very long, there's still going to be a tad bit of liquid in there, and that's totally fine. You actually kind of want that. You want to have some sort of moisture. If you've let them drain for a while, then they're going to be somewhat dry, in which case you can come back and add a little water, or you can add some of the cooking water if you've saved it, some chicken stock perhaps, or even vegetable stock. I've also been known to add butter and salt and pepper. In this case, I'm just going to do a little salt and pepper. We're going to turn the food processor on. It's going to get a little loud. You want this to be pretty much somewhat smooth, kind of like a mashed potato texture. If you like it thick and chunky, there's nothing wrong with that either. I always like to take the lid off and come back with my spoon or spatula. Gosh, it smells good. All right, this looks very nice. We're going to go ahead and plate it on our platter here. Now, what could we do with this? Well, it can be a side dish on its own, kind of like a mashed potato, or you could top it with a nice protein, which I'm about to do. But it's also equally delicious with roasted vegetables. I love doing roasted root vegetables in the fall. Your carrots, your rutabagas, your turnips, any of that kind of root vegetable. And it looks beautiful on a plate when you top it, no matter what with. We have a piece of salmon here that we've cooked, little oven roasted with salt and pepper. And pop that right on our platter. And there you have a nice, delicious main course. Celery root and parsnip puree underneath a nice piece of roasted salmon. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Virginia vegetable growers continue to raise a diversity of crops for their customers. Most growers in the Old Dominion sell vegetables directly to the consumer, whether that's through a farmer's market, a community-supported agriculture agreement, or right from the back of a pickup. The number of vegetable growers has decreased, however. In 2017, there were 1,800 vegetable growers. In 2022, the number dropped to 1,524. About half of all vegetable farms are 1 to 5 acres in size. 456 farms were less than an acre. Tomatoes, peppers, and sweet corn are the most popular vegetables raised in the state.
It's not just See Spot Run, it's See Spot Run to the spotted lanternfly. Dogs are the latest ally in the fight against this insect that's ravaged parts of Virginia and many other states. And it turns out pretty much any dog can do it.
Search fly.
And with that, Bill Wellborn's Tibetan Terrier Pepe is off hunting for spotted lanternfly eggs placed around his front porch.
Yes, good boy. Nice job. Good job, Pepe. Good job, my man.
Pepe is one of many dogs that are trained to hunt the spotted lanternfly through a program co-sponsored by Virginia Tech and Texas Tech. The pest was first discovered in the U.S. in 2014 in Pennsylvania, and it was found 4 years later in Frederick County in Virginia, threatening the Commonwealth's peach, apple, grape, and wine industries. They also like to feed on trees and shrubs. All told, the Department of Agriculture says the spotted lanternfly is responsible for about $325 million in damage a year across the nation. According to Virginia Tech, by 2022, the pest had spread to Albemarle, Augusta, Carroll, Page, Prince William, Rockingham, Rockbridge, Shenandoah, and Wythe counties, as well as Lynchburg and other cities. Those are shown in red. Lighter infestations have been found in the yellow counties. It's spreading quickly, and farmers and homeowners are eager to help slow it down. Erica Feuerbacher is part of the program at Virginia Tech that is helping dog owners teach their pets to find the insect's eggs.
Our approach is that we just have to make those eggs meaningful to them. So the dogs start to learn that if they find that smell, they get what they want. They get their toy or they get treats. And so we kind of tailor it to what the dog likes best. And what we teach the dog is when you find that scent and you communicate to your handler that you found it, if that's a correct find, you're going to get a reward for it.
And you don't need a lab or a German Shepherd in order to get your animal to help the pest bug off.
For the most part, any breed of dog can participate. We have a lot of senior adult dogs in our project and doing really well. As long as we make the scent meaningful to them, they can find it. And this sort of scent detection is actually a really good way to keep your dog's brain active and keep them really mentally stimulated.
Feuerbacher says the program has been popular. They recently had 12,000 people register for a webinar on the topic. Dogs are trained with boxes. Some have treats, some are placebo. Once the dog can distinguish between the two, it's time to add the spotted lanternfly eggs.
And then he has to alert on them, just like you saw him do outside when he was telling me and turning his head and saying, "Daddy, it's here." Then after he passes the odor recognition test, then you do what's called the field evaluation, which is what you're working on now. Search fly.
Pepe has had what they call nose work before. That doesn't refer to rhinoplasty. It means he's been trained to pick up certain scents before going after the spotted lanternfly. And the dogs that have gone through this program have had similar training. The team at Virginia Tech and Texas Tech have created the Canine Citizen Science Detection Dog Study, funded with a 4-year, $475,000 grant from USDA. The team hopes to expand the program so that any dog can participate. No nose experience necessary. In Roanoke, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting. We're so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Every spring and fall, Virginia farmers and other motorists nearly collide on rural roads. Sometimes these collisions can be dangerous or even fatal when a car traveling 55 miles an hour suddenly meets much slower moving farm equipment. The odds of a collision shoot up. Farm equipment operators are required to display a slow-moving vehicle emblem when they're on a public road. When you see that, slow down. Give them plenty of space to do their job. This message brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Safety Advisory Committee.
When the National FFA was founded more than 85 years ago, the world was a much simpler place.
Our country was a simpler place.
It was a time when about a quarter of all Americans were engaged in agriculture.
A time when many farms still operated without electricity.
When a short trip to town actually meant a pretty long ride.
Times have changed. And agriculture has changed, offering new opportunities and careers in fields like business, education, production, and research.
That means FFA has changed too.
FFA makes a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education.
We're strengthening American agriculture and providing our members with the skills needed to build healthy local communities, a strong nation, and a sustainable world. As we've grown, one thing has come to represent the pride we have in our organization.
It's not a song or a slogan or a flag.
It's a simple blue corduroy jacket.
Without it, I'm just one person. Just one voice.
But with it, I know that more than 500,000 others have my back.
That more than 500,000 others are helping me tackle some of the world's toughest challenges.
Like feeding the world, stewarding our natural resources, and finding solutions for agricultural sustainability.
We are learning to do,
doing to learn,
earning to live,
and living to serve through our local chapters and state associations and at our conventions and conferences.
By becoming thought leaders and advocates for what we know is right.
We are the next generation of agriculture, committed, passionate, and proud to be among those who feed the world.